And later, 80 years later, when the rebels was here, they used the same room and converted it to serve them as a synagogue. Okay, what they did, they took the capitals from the top of the pillars at Herod's the Great Palace, and they placed them one by one right over here, and they covered it with some kind of a primitive cement. So from the capitals of the pillars, they made those benches to sit on. Big enough for about 230 people to gather. So that was the Beit HaKnesset, the house of gathering for them. And I want to remind you, yes, that this synagogue was active when the temple in Jerusalem was still active, okay? Because they built it around the year of 67 AD. So that was their synagogue. Now, it's very hard to find archaeological evidence for spiritual life of people, but we find quite a lot of that. We found the Beit Midrash, the house of studies. We found the synagogue. We found the ritual bath. We found the 10th pottery shards. This is the 10th part for the priest. And many more examples that prove that those people didn't see their situation as an excuse not to fulfill the law of Moses, but they kept the law of Moses. And just imagine them living over here for almost 8 years. They got nothing much to do. Okay, so we can assume the spiritual life over here was probably even more developed than, probably very developed. Now, I want to tell you about the amazing discovery that was discovered under the floor of the synagogue. They found 2 biblical scrolls. Yes, one of them, amazingly, the blessing of Moses to the tribes from the book of Deuteronomy. Later I can give you the exact phrases. And they found Ezekiel 33 to Ezekiel 38. So they found the scroll of Ezekiel, but not the whole scroll, just those chapters. Now, if you read most of the guidebooks, what you're going to read, that those scrolls were found buried in the ground because they were probably worn out. Because biblical scrolls, when they worn out, you don't just throw them to the garbage, you bury them like you bury a person. Please, like you bury a person. I want to share with you a theory, and I'm not sure who's the scholar who first came with it. I wish I could give the credit. We just discussed it over here with some of the local archaeologists. I'm not sure who to give the credit with, but I think it's just mind-blowing. Okay? So probably you won't be able to read about it, but I just think it's just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Listen to that. Josephus was using the Greek calendar, which is lunarian, following the moon. And the Hebrew calendar is also lunarian, following the moon. So it means that if you read the book of Josephus that was captured by the Romans, you can actually tell what was the Hebrew date when the events occurred. Got it? We can tell you that the Romans, according to the testimony of Josephus, we can tell you that the Romans conquered Masada on the Shabbat Passover. Passover is 7 days, you have a Shabbat in the middle, so they chose to attack on the day of Shabbat and the Passover time. And we also know that one of the commanders was a Jewish commander, one of the Roman commanders was a Jewish commander from Alexandria. In my take on that, I believe, again, that's my own thoughts about this, he maybe told his Roman friends, hey, that will be a great day to attack on the day of Shabbat. Maybe they will be busy in their own stuff. Oh, most welcome. Maybe they will be busy, maybe they will hesitate to hold a sword in this holy day, okay? So maybe he's the one who told them to attack on that day. Another thing I want to tell you, you already know that in Jesus' time they read the 5 books of the Torah. Today, we do it in 1 year. In 1 year, we finish reading the whole 5 books of the Torah. In Jesus' time, it was in 3 years sequence. And after reading the Torah, they read from the prophets. So far, facts as far as we know them. Now, the little theory over here, which I think is just incredible. It was spontaneous reading back then. But on the 3 main holidays, Passover, Shavuot, and Tabernacles, There was already a fixed tradition what to be read. And until today, on Shabbat Passover, we are reading the same scroll of Ezekiel, the vision of the dry bones. Got it? It means that there are very good chances that those scrolls were buried underground intentionally. Why? Because they just finished reading them over here. Okay, they got the scroll from here. Everybody were covering with their shrouds. The Romans about to breach. They're about to kill themselves, to kill their families, and to kill themselves. They think there is no hope. They think they are the last man standing. They think that God abandoned them. They follow their false Messiah who led them into destruction. So they open the scroll, they read the blessing of Moses to the tribes, and then they close it and they open the scroll and they read the scroll of Ezekiel and they read about the dry bones. Now, today, if you ask the Israelis, they believe that they are the fulfillment of these bones, of this prophecy. And if you ask the Messianic Jewish teachers, they will tell you that we are still in the process of that. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just for you later, go and read it. It's just very graphic, how these bones look so dry, and God asking Ezekiel, those bones can live, and Ezekiel said, you God, you know, and then you see the Syrians going on them and the flesh going on and those indeed I look, and the Syrians and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them over, but there was no breath in them. Also he said to me, prophesy to the breath, prophesy, son of man, and say to the breath, to the ruach, those says the Lord God, come from the four winds, O breath, and breath on these slains, that they may live. So I prophesied, and he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet, as exceedingly great army. Listen to that. Then he said to me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They indeed say, our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we ourselves are cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them, thus says the Lord God, behold, O my people, I will open their graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am the Lord when I have opened your graves, O my people, and I brought you up from your graves. I will put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I will place you in your own land. Then you shall know that I am the Lord. I have spoken, and it performed it, says the Lord. So those words were said right over here, and they buried the scroll in the ground, believing that one day it will be fulfilled.